YouTube, how did I be doing the films here? What I got for you today is yet another masterclass video. And this masterclass is more on the strategic side, and it's all surrounding ult tracking. Ult tracking is literally a cheat code, and if you want to start winning way more games, you definitely should learn it. And if you're new here or find yourself coming back on the regular and you aren't already subscribed yet, why not? It's completely free and it greatly helps out the channel. At 20,000 subscribers, we're going to be hosting a giveaway because I finally got approved to do some more things as a Marvel Rivals partner, so make sure to stay tuned. But anyways, let's dive straight into the video. Now, what exactly is ult tracking? Now, ult tracking is exactly what it sounds like. You mentally keep tabs on which ultimates the enemy team has available. Now, this isn't necessary pro level or high elo type of theories, but it is game-changing info that helps you predict fights and control them before they actually even begin. Let's say that the enemy team, for example, has a Emma Frost with ult ready. As you're a strategist, that being any strategist in the entire game, you probably shouldn't be stacking with the rest of your team knowing that there's a Emma Frost on the other team. You should probably be placing yourself behind some sort of cover so that if she uses her psionic seduction, so that you're not affected by the silence that she sends out, so you can't use your ultimate by being behind cover, pop your ultimate and you're saving your team from, the rest of the enemies. Pretty self-explanatory. Or maybe you have some sort of duelist ultimate ready to go, and the enemy team doesn't have their strategist ultimates up, whether it's the first fight or they used it before. That means in theory, you should be able to get some quick and easy eliminations instead of slowly dancing around waiting for proper value. Now, a majority of the time, fights are literally won or lost based on who has their ultimates available. It is literally that simple. It's a very big resource management game. If you know your team has the advantage, you can push way harder and force the tempo into your own favor, which a lot of people still don't understand, that you don't have to use ultimates to counter another ultimate. You can use it early to try to gain the tempo and force enemies to make a ton of mistakes and cause a ton of confusion. Now that you got a general understanding of what ult tracking is, let's talk about how to actually do it. Now, the biggest mistake I see from lower ranked players is that they never press tab. Yes, this is true. That's why when I'm playing Marvel Rivals, I typically spam tab. Of course, it's not usually the best idea to do that because you start thinking about your kills and your eliminations, and of course your deaths and looking at your teammates. But at this point, when you're ult tracking, the biggest thing you need to be doing is looking at the enemies. But basically, you're playing at a disadvantage when you're not constantly checking who's alive, what heroes are in the match, and what ults are still in play. After each and every fight you have in Marvel Rivals, you should be doing a mental checklist. I want you to hold tab, mentally run through the enemy team. Ask yourself, did we see their Luna ult? Did their Strange ult? Did X, Y, or Z use their ultimates? If they didn't use it during that fight, then you can probably assume it's coming up in the next fight. Now, that's one of the ways we can ult track. Now, another way this comes with a little bit more game sense in time in the game is paying attention to how long the fight lasted. Certain characters like Storm or Luna build their ults insanely fast. If the fight is super prolonged, then they might already have them again, so they could have 2 ults in one fight. These are all factors you have to consider. Another thing that you should definitely understand is that strategist ults usually build the fastest in comparison to vanguards or duelists, so you'll always want to keep an eye for those, with the exception of a couple duelists, of course. But a majority of the time, yes, it's strategists building their ults fast. Now, tracking in theory sounds simple, but just like aim or positioning, ult tracking is still a skill you have to train. Every game, every fight, every win, every loss, you must press tab, think about their ult economy, what they're going to be planning. And while at the same time, you also have to be thinking about your own. The best way to train at ult tracking, well, besides just playing Marvel Rivals, is literally watching high elo gameplay or even pro matches. Basically, I recommend starting out watching a pro match, for example. Then you can see at the top of the screen what their ults are at, and you want to watch how each team reacts. Do certain strategists move to certain positions? Do vanguards position themselves a little bit further up? Duelists maybe a little bit higher up or spread out more? These are all things you should be considering when you think about strategist ultimates or just ultimates in general. Now, we're using Canva again to show you a little top-down scenario about ult tracking. So for instance, there's an Emma Frost on the enemy team, correct? We assume that they're probably going to have ult after the fight's been played for quite a while. You've been sitting there for quite a long time. And there's a couple options for our Luna Snow. Our Luna Snow has ult. Our Emma Frost has ult as well. You could probably infer by the time your tanks have their ult as well, that their tanks probably just the same. They have their ults as well. So understanding that is a crucial aspect of the game. Once we understand that the Emma Frost probably has ult and you have ult, they're probably going to use the ult to, focus you down. Try to get that strategist ult away, silence you, try to get a massive amount of picks. In this instance, you can either hide around the pillar on either side, or you could literally retreat all the way back into the tunnel or the little hallway, this thing, right? Something like that. You could either retreat here, go behind some pieces of cover to try to protect you from that, large LOS, that large line of sight, so you're not affected by the Emma Frost ult. Again, the Emma Frost ult will go like this, so you're always going to be wanting to position yourself between some sort of cover. This is usually the case when you're playing against, Emma Frost or even a Doctor Strange. If he tries to Eye of Agamotto you have this piece of hard cover that can protect you. That, of course, if you don't have a Magneto or Strange or whatever to shield you. Again, this is a little bit of an example, then I'll show you one in-game of what I exactly mean, so it's a little bit better. But this is a little top-down scenario to keep in mind as well. If they have their ult and you have your ult, they're probably going to be looking for you as the first object. Again, going to cover, going to cover, going to cover as best as you can. That's the whole idea about ult tracking, because this strategist ult is super important in comparison to these ults. So always playing your life, being aware of what's going to happen. Again, if your Magneto or Groot has their ult, you can assume that these two are also going to have their ult as well on the other team. So it's always good to keep in mind of what your percentages are at, as well as the enemy percents as well. That's, in theory, how you ult track. So the attacking team absorbed a ton of damage, a lot more damage in comparison to the defending team. You can even look at like damage blocked. You can see how much damage is absorbed by the attacking team. And you just look at the healing differential. Defending Loki has 1.4. The Invis has 900. The attacking team has 1.8 for Loki and 1.2 for Invis. So in theory, our ult economy is going to be a little bit better in terms of the strategist, or pretty much identical. So these are things to heavily consider. Those are the little details you should be looking out for when you play this game. At any level, I would say, I think ult tracking literally could win you games, even if your aiming or positioning isn't immaculate. I think having the ability to understand when ults are probably going to be getting used, or when ults are going to happen, so you can position yourself accordingly. I think having the skill as ult tracking is literally a great way to play this game. Again, ult tracking is great in any scenario. When you look at strategist ultimates economy, these are the biggest things to be worrying about and really paying attention to. Not necessarily the rest of the ult lineup, but mainly we're looking at strategist economy. As you can see, for strategists, it's relatively even after a quick little reset for the most part. Maybe our invis is a little bit quicker on tempo, this farming ult constantly. These are things to consider, but for the most part, you consider that everybody's relatively at the same amount of time and speed. So when you're playing a game of Marvel Rivals, what I like to think about is, if I have my ultimate as a strategist, the enemy strategist probably has their ultimate as well, even if not a ton of picks are coming through and the fight is kind of like a stalemate. You can probably infer that you probably have. You see, we're a little bit on tempo because we have main Invis ult and we have Loki copy before they even do. So you could probably aggress this fight with the Invis ult if you wanted to. So they go first, and the mirror is the cop. We have slightly better because they popped first. Now Loki copy is on the table, and we have Punisher ult before they have. So if we pop it before in Invis ult, I don't know why I said it in 20 times. But these are things to be considering. Eye goes through, and pretty much an easy wipe. In this scenario, Punisher ult was definitely not needed here because so many things were committed before that. And because of that, our ult economy is going to be a little bit off tempo. But we do have Invis ult or Loki copy to mirror Actually, they didn't use it. So ult advantage on the attacking side, which is great. So when we're on defense, we're probably thinking, okay, they literally used every single ultimate in the game except for Loki copy. So that's the only thing they really need to be worrying about and paying attention to on the side of the defense side. So these are, great things to track and talk about as a, defending team. So they were like perma staggered on the defense, so they could really never get a good fight for the second point. That's another big thing. When you start to stagger, the team that is like doing the staggering to the defending team, so the defending team was staggering, because we're staggering, we're building ult charge. And while they're staggering, they're not building ult charge, and they're just perma going to be resetting until they're finally at 6. And a little side note, you can actually turret on top of the cart on Arako, which is kind of funny, but it is something you can do. Again, ult economy, we're looking at Loki copy, and because we used all of our ults, in that first fight, and they were Geika staggered, we didn't have a chance to really build up ults because they weren't necessarily peaking the attacking team. So on the defense, the best things to assume is that, okay, they still have Loki copy. They potentially have Squirrel Girl because you build Squirrel Girl extremely fast. And they possibly have main invis ultimate while still having the Loki copy. These are things you should be looking at when you're on the defending team. Because, these were popped at relatively the same time. Like the ultimates. Like invis ultimate, main invis was popped at the same time as, the attacking team's main invis ult. So you can infer that, these are probably the same, right? In terms of Loki, we know that the attacking team still has copy because they never used it once. Whereas we still don't have our copy for defense, which is a big issue. But for the most part, we have a ton of combos ready and available as options. But like we have reactionary ults, which is a good thing or a big thing to consider. These are all minor details you should be looking out for when you're playing the game. Especially if you want to get a lot better. If you're not proficient in aiming or positioning, these like ult tracking is another way to really do this. Luckily he was grabbed. We use a Squirrel Girl ult. And basically, so we trade 1 for 1. Or 1 for 2. So we're up now. 1 for 3. So we can just easily push. And they're pretty much giga staggered at this point. Now, the one big thing, and I'm not a fan of, is early copying. The attacking team decides to early copy. Maybe it was used as a reaction ult. I don't know. I'm not a fan of early copying. I don't think it's a good play ever, but it's fine. We invis ult here to save. I mean, it's unlucky at the positioning. It's fine. Very good Eye of Agamotto. Ult was used to stabilize the rest of the team, which I think can be fine in this scenario. It builds time for the rest of the team to come back after getting staggered. We still have copy in comparison that they don't have copy and they don't have main invis. So any fight the defending team takes will be perfectly fine. Was it needed there? Don't know. But we used it because of Punisher ult. Even though you could, in theory, line of sight it here. You could line of sight it here, but it's okay. I think better safe than sorry, I would say. Like, especially against a Punisher ultimate, where even if you did break line of sight here, right? You did break line of sight, the Punisher can just walk through, even though it's a corridor with a Squirrel Girl that would get instantly deleted. Or you could come around here, go around. Again, perfectly fine. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's all about positioning, knowing what the ult economy is at, everything like that. But anyways, hopefully this video has helped you in any way, shape, or form to get a better understanding of ult tracking in Marvel Rivals. If so, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. Going for 20k. At 20k, we're doing a giveaway, so definitely check it out. But anyways, I hope you have a great and safe day, and I'll catch you in the next one.